face problem, you please let me know immediately. Okay, my screen is visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Uh, okay, in our previous lecture, we have studied the various types of electronic communication system based upon the direction. They are unidirectional or bidirectional. On the base of signal, they are analog or digital. On the basis of modulation or baseband transmission, we discussed the various types of analog modulation techniques, that is amplitude modulation, phase modulation, frequency modulation. Yesterday we have studied about the modulation process for the analog signal, and the modulation process is very simple. First, we should have a signal in the form of some electrical form, that may be some sine wave, cosine wave, triangular, rectangular, square wave or so. That has to be superimposed upon some carrier wave. Carrier wave is nothing but a high frequency, constant amplitude electromagnetic wave. That electromagnetic wave is superimposed by some carrier signal, and that signal will try to modify the properties of carrier wave. And what are those properties of carrier wave which will be modified? The properties are the amplitude modified, it will be called as amplitude modulation. If frequency modified, it will be called as frequency modulation. If phase is modified, it will be called as phase modulation. Then we talked about the other processes such as pulse amplitude modulation, pulse width modulation also. If pulse is a rectangular or a square pulse, then we adopt pulse amplitude modulation and pulse width modulation. In pulse amplitude modulation, the modulating signal will try to modify the amplitude of the carrier wave, and in pulse width modulation, the modulating signal, which is some electrical signal in the form of sine, cosine waves also, will now try to modify the width of the rectangular or square waves. So we have studied all these things yesterday. Now let us talk about the advantages of analog communication. In advantages of analog communication, we know in terms of advantages, the transmitters and receivers used in the analog system are very simple. The bandwidth requirement in case of analog communication is low. Frequency division multiplexing can be used, means a same channel can be divided into multiple categories or subcategories in terms of frequency, or we can divide a band of frequency into different bands to process or to transmit the different information in a single channel. Now the drawbacks of analog communication. In terms of drawbacks, the main drawback is the noise affects the signal quality. Why noise is more there? Because in most of the analog communication systems, we require physical contact. That is, point-to-point contact is quite often in analog communication system, and this point-to-point contact results into the noise. However, noise can also exist in case of the system which is not point-to-point, means there is no physical contact, but there are more and more chances if there is a physical contact between the two devices, that is transmitter and receiver, then we will have more and more noise, and this noise affects the quality of the signal. It is not possible to separate noise and signal. Separation is difficult. Even the identification of the noise is difficult, and separation is quite more difficult. Repeaters cannot be used between the transmitters and receivers. If we want to transmit the information at large distances, due to point-to-point contact or due to introduction of noise, the signal quality gets poor. And if the distance of transmission is very, very large, then we will have a loss or attenuation in the signal. So at the receiving end, which is far, far away from the transmitting end, then the signal will be distorted, which will be received, and distorted or attenuated signal is a poor quality signal which we do not want to use. So we have to use the repeaters, but repeaters cannot be easily used in case of the analog communication system. Coding of the signal is not possible. That is, we cannot send the secret information. It is not suitable for the transmission of secret information. So if we use the analog communication system such as the radio transmitter, the TV transmitter, radio broadcaster, TV broadcaster to send the secret military informations or secret CBI informations, then there is no use. The information will be made public by using analog signal, and we will be in a difficult situation. So one cannot use the analog communication system for transferring the secret information because the information coding is not possible in case of analog communication. So this is the drawback of analog communication. Applications of analog communication. In terms of application, the more popular applications are the radio broadcasting, that is amplitude modulated or frequency modulated, AM or FM. We all are familiar with the FM stations, Radio Mirchi, etc. These are the FM stations. So this is the application of analog communication. TV broadcasting is also analog communication. Telephone is also analog, but mobile-to-mobile communications are some separate category. Here by telephone we mean the landline telephones which are connected by point-to-point, that is through a wire, telephone wire. But nowadays these telephones are obsolete, which are not frequently used. They are less in number now, and in coming years they will be completely obsolete. Now next type of communication is the digital communication. So here the basic aspect includes the modulation system or technique in which the transmitted signal is in the form of a digitized form or digital pulse of constant amplitude, constant frequency and phase. This type of information is called as digital modulation system. So here the information is converted into digital form. Then digital form is nothing but the combinations of zeros and ones, which you have studied in your digital electronics last year. And the electronic signal which is converted into digital form is now transmitted in the form of voltage wave or current waves. High voltage wave will represent bit state 1, low voltage state will represent a bit state 0, and so on. A sequence of zeros and ones will be represented by the high and low voltages as levels 0 volts or 5 volt or so. So examples of digital communication system are the PCM, which is the pulse code modulation, DM, that is delta modulation. In the detail we will study in the second part of unit 1 the PCM and DM. These are the examples of digital modulation techniques. In pulse code modulation and this delta modulation, a wave train or a sequence of digital pulses is transmitted by the transmitter. And why a sequence of pulses? Because we will have a sequence of zeros and ones in case of a digital signal, and each zero and each one has to be transferred or transmitted using a voltage level, and correspondingly we will get a sequence of voltage levels of up and down corresponding to ones and zeros. All the pulses are of constant amplitude, they are of constant width and constant position. So in case of a digital communication system, we cannot achieve pulse amplitude modulation, pulse position modulation, pulse width modulation. That is only possible in case of analog communication system. It is missing in the case of digital communication system. The information is contained in the combination of the transmitted pulses. We know that eight decimal number can be represented by a combination of 4 zeros and ones. So a single alphabet is represented by a combination of 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 bit, 64 bit or 128 bit of binary bits. So we will have a sequence or a continuous train of the pulses which will represent our data. Now, what are the advantages of a digital communication system? In one by one, we will discuss the advantages over the analog communication system. Due to the digital nature of the transmitted signal, the interference of additive noise does not introduce many errors. In the drawback of analog communication system, we have studied that the noise has an effective role in case of analog communication system. It affects the quality of the signal, but in case of digital communication system, the noise is less and the error is less. So digital communication systems are better to the noise immunity. That is, noise cannot be present in digital transmission of the information. Second point, due to the channel coding is possible in case of digital communication system. So it is very difficult in case of analog communication system to identify the error and locate the error. But in case of digital communication system, the digitization is possible. Coding of the information is possible. There are various coding schemes which we will study in Unit 2. That is NRZL, NRZI, Manchester, Differential Manchester. These are the name of the coding schemes in which we code the information, and the coding results into early or easy detection of the error in the signal, and we are also possible to correct the error. This thing was missing in case of analog communication system because there the coding could not be done and error detection is not possible. Error correction is further more difficult. But in case of digital communication system, the coding is possible, error detection is possible, and correction of the error is also possible, and it is very easy as compared to analog communication system. For the long distance transmission, we know the information is attenuated, the signal quality is decreased, so we have to use the repeaters. So repeaters can be easily used in case of digital communication system. This further improves the noise immunity of the digital communication system. So due to the digital nature of the signal, it is possible to use the advanced data processing techniques such as digital signal processing, image processing, data compression, etc. But this alteration with the original data in case of analog communication system was not possible. But we can alter the data in case of digital nature, because if you know, you can easily reduce or enhance the picture quality. You can easily enhance or reduce the size of the PDF or .doc file. You can easily enhance or decrease the quality of your video signal. So all these signals are digitized signals, digital information. So digitized information is easy to process. Fifth point is time division multiplexing. Technique can be used to transmit many voice channels over a single common transmission channel. This was also possible in case of the analog communication system, but there we divide the channel bandwidth into different sub-channels so that we can transfer multiple information in single channel. Here we can also send the multiple information through a single channel, but here the method is different. Instead of using frequency division multiplexing, here we use time division multiplexing. For example, if we have a bandwidth for a particular channel, then different programs on that channel can be aired by separating the time. Suppose from 9 to 10 we have an news hour, from 10 to 11 we have some entertainment hour, 11 to 12 we again have some cooking class or so. So that is the different programs can be aired from a single channel by dividing the time of the channel. The more important property of or advantage of digital communication is that digital communication is useful in military applications because here information can be coded, information can be in the form of a secret information. So here we can send the information which will be used only by a few permitted receivers which can receive the transmitted signal. So this finds a huge application in case of secret information transmission, generally in case of the military applications or central board of investigations. The last point is digital communication is becoming simpler and cheaper as compared to the analog communication due to the invention of high-speed computers and integrated circuit, that is ICs. There are some drawbacks of digital communication system as well. The problem is with the bit rate. Bit rate is nothing but the amount of information you can send in a short duration of time, and bit rate depends upon the time taken by the system to transfer one single bit. And if the bit rate is high, then we can send huge amount of data in a small duration of time. As the bit rate is very high. Why the bit rate is high in case of digital communication system? Because we know we have 32-bit, 64-bit, 128-bit digital systems, and there are even a single alphabet or single decimal number is represented by large bits. So we will have high bit rate, and high bit rate will further require the channel bandwidth as a larger channel bandwidth. So as compared to analog communication system, in digital communication system, we must have larger bandwidth, else we will not be able to transfer the information. The second point is the problem with the synchronization. Digital modulation needs synchronization in case of synchronous modulation. We know very easily that if 5 digit is coded by binary bits, and if we change single 0 or 1 in that code, then the information is not correct. So the synchronization is a huge problem in case of digital communication system. Even a single 0 is replaced with 1 or single 1 is replaced with 0 in a digital code will change the course of information completely. So this is the huge disadvantage that the digital communication system requires a larger channel bandwidth, as well as they also requires a synchronization. Without synchronization, the digital information will be lost, it will be error prone, and the detection and error will take much time because the code will have more number of errors. Due to this, the correction time will be high, and the bit rate or transfer rate will further reduce. Now the applications of digital communications as comparative to the analog communication system, the long distance communication between Earth and spaceship is done with the help of digital communications. We cannot make a physical point-to-point contact between Earth and the spaceships. So digital communication system find good application in long distance communication. Satellite communication is another example of point 1. Military communication which needs coding, and coding can be done in case of digital communication system. So information can be kept secret. So information can be kept secret and can be transferred from one point to another point, and only the transmitter and receiver know what has been transferred. Telephone systems, mobile communication can be used with the digital communication, data and computer communication. Hello? Hello? Okay. Okay. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आई बीच में?
No, sir.
Okay, so from my side, today's lecture is over. You please write your attendance in the chat box. Link is available for further 2 minutes. Write your roll number and name in the chat box.